Hello and welcome to tonight's live video. Hopefully you can all see me. I'm having to do it on a tripod, but hopefully you can see the fabric that I've set up. I'll just give it a couple of minutes for everyone to join and then we will get going. So tonight's tutorial is going to be all about trying to squeeze as much as possible from your metre of lovely fabric, because we all know we want to make it last as long as possible. So I always have a few tools that I use. My main one is my biro. This is probably sacrilege to sewing. I mean, there is tailor's chalk and things, but I use a biro. And then my pattern pieces, which have been modified slightly. So once we've started, I will show you them. I've got all my bits here ready to lay out on my fabric. So let me just check how many people have joined and then we'll get going if there's people here. I can't see my screen today. There's a few more people joining in, so we'll just give it another few minutes. So we've got a few people coming in. So this is the fabric we're going to be using tonight. All of my jersey is 150 centimetres wide, so I do get slightly more out of it because of that. However, the same techniques apply when doing a smaller piece of fabric. I've tried to lay it out on my table so that you can all see it rather than the floor. So as you can see, it hangs down the edge slightly, but I will pull it forward as needed. Okay, so it looks like we've got a few people here. So I will get started, and as always, this will go on the YouTube channel when it's finished so that you can all catch up on it. Okay, so I'm going to do a few of the patterns that I've already made out of this fabric. So this is a little Emmy t-shirt, and then we've got a pair of overalls, and then a long sleeved pick-and-mix bodysuit, and then we've got our harem pants. Oh, that's the back, not that it really matters. And then I also did for this set a matching long sleeve t-shirt. However, this is in the contrast fabric. It didn't come from my original metre. Now, the first thing I find when you're trying to get your fabric to go as far as possible is choose a coordinate. This means you can do things like get a whole t-shirt out of it and just pop a couple of colour coordinated sleeves on. So it's best to plan what you're going to do first, how you're going to colour coordinate. For my lined overalls, I lined the whole thing in the black fabric rather than try and get a double lot of fabric from my nice tractors. Okay, so first thing is planning. These are all 6 to 9 months and these are all cut from a single metre of fabric. So next up, I modify my patterns. So what I've done is I've printed my pattern out as normal. So these are my 6 to 9 month sleeves, and then I've just traced them on a piece of plain paper to give me an unfolded version. This just helps with laying out because, especially sleeves, they take up far more room than you ever think they're going to. I've done that with every single one of my pattern pieces, including my bodysuit. As you can see, this is a rather large one because I've added all the different lengths as separate parts. Oh, excuse me, I have a small child crawling on my feet. I guess she's left her teddy for bedtime down here. There we go. So again, amazingly, it looks a lot bigger when you folded it out, but we have a nice gap here. So we're going to make good use of that gap. That is a plain piece of paper that my children have been cutting into shapes. Move that out of the way. And then the overalls. Again, it's quite wide at the bottom here, and we can take into account we've got a missing gap there. And then we've got our very longest piece, which is the back part of the overalls. So I always start with the longest piece. It just helps to make sure it fits on, because it's going to be the piece that takes up the most amount of room. And I always start in my top left-hand corner, and I put it right against the edges. Just move that onto my table a little bit more so you can see. And I'm going to put that literally right to the edge of my fabric, and I'm going to push it as far up as it'll go. And then I'm not going to cut anything. I'm just going to pat and weigh it down for now, because this is just an idea of positioning. There we go. So that shows us how much fabric we're going to have to use for the back of those overalls. Now we can see that we've got a little bit left down here. There's no way it's going to be enough to do our front piece. So we can disregard that piece for now. If we were really lucky, we'd be doing the short versions of these and they'd fit on. But if we lift that up, if we drew this line on the exact line from them, the bottom of those, we would fit them under there. So because we can do that, we're going to put the bottom of our one side of our harem pants there. So we know that's going to fit. So I'm just going to hold it in place with a pat and weight on there. I know that's going to go there. Now, because we know that this and this fit quite nicely there, we know that we can now fit the front piece on. And again, we're going to push it as far up as we possibly can. And we're going to make sure that these shorts, the sides of these overalls, touch each other. Now obviously it's quite hard to cut like this, so I don't cut them out quite yet. So again, we're going to lay that on. Just put one there. Now this one is shorter than this one, so we might be able to get some of our t-shirts out. We want to get the longest piece we possibly can out of the fabric we have left. So if I'm doing the snap neck, I know it's that tall. That's my maximum height, which means I could get a t-shirt at the bottom here. Is this the most efficient use of the space? Yeah, probably. I mean, I can really push it against them pants there. So I know that this space is going to be taken up with one part of my bodice. Now I have many layers to my bodice here, so that's my original snap neck t-shirt length. I think that fits quite nicely. We're not wasting a lot of the bottom here. We could even push it further across here until it touches. So we've made some really good use of fabric there. I understand it's probably stretching slightly, so that leeway is helpful for me. Okay, so that's got our longest, biggest pieces in. So if we look back at what we're aiming to cut, we still need to fit the back and front of a long bodysuit in. We also need to cut a second side of our harem pants, and we need to cut one more half of our t-shirt bodice. However, we've only used about half of our fabric so far. There's quite a lot more down here. So now becomes the fun of stacking. So I'm just going to make sure I know that my furthest edge for that one is at that point. Now I know that I've got most of my pieces, but I need to add some more in. Our next longest piece is going to be the back of our pick and mix. So I'm just going to move that piece. This is reserved. And I'm going to move my next longest piece. Move that sleeve out of the way a second. And I'm just going to unfold that. There we go. So you need to remember, if you're doing the snap neck, that it needs to be unfolded there. And we're going to make this touch our overalls. And that gives us the longest piece possible to go in this space, leaving us with a good fair chunk here. So if we make a mark of where the bottom is, just for now, and I know on this fabric it's going to come up this purple stripe, so I'm going to just test and see whether I could fit the other half on, which I can. So I can fit another half under here. And this leaves me with the rest of this to fit some more pants on, all the sleeves and half a t-shirt, which is going to be tight, but it's definitely doable. So once I've got an idea of where I'm going to put my pieces, I get my trusty biro. So I've come up with a vague plan. I know roughly where I'm going to put everything. So now this might look quite inelegant or unelegant on the camera. So I'm just going to make sure I push this right to the top. I know it's a little bit curly at the top, but I'll just sew that out. Okay. Does that touch there? Yes. It touches there. Then I get my biro, and you can use tailor's chalk, you can use a fabric pen, whatever works best for you. I just find a biro, if I don't get around to sewing it for a few weeks, because sometimes things take a while to get there, it doesn't rub off. It's still there when I go back to it. You know, it's not an air marker that disappears after a couple of hours. So I can confidently draw around my piece. And this is where it gets, you have to be quite gentle and light, because otherwise it can drag the fabric, which we don't want. So when you finish, just make sure the beginning's still in that corner there. Move it out of the way a second. Now I also know that I'm going to be colour blocking some of my t-shirts. So I know that I don't need 2 short sleeves. But I know that I need 2 long sleeves for my pick and mix. And it's almost at the top there. And then I'm going to find some lovely matching jersey to make a couple of t-shirts to go under this, because I think it will go with pretty much any colour that I make. Excuse how inelegant this is. I'm not very tall, so reaching across an entire table is a little bit tricky. But I thought it was easier than you guys watching me crawl around on the floor. I may have misjudged it slightly. There you go, so I'm going to draw around this neckline. The line doesn't have to join up perfectly, it just needs to be good enough that you can cut around it in a minute. So this is my first piece. Oh dear, I wish my arms were about an inch longer here. It's getting very athletic. Now this isn't even for my children. Mine are all too big for this kind of size now. But my friend makes beautiful babies, and she's just had the most gorgeous little girl. So this will be something she can grow into in the coming months. I wish I had a sewn with mine. Mine were this small. But there you are. Oh, it's not quite fitting in that top edge. I'm just going to pull my fabric down a bit. Reline up that leg because it's shifted slightly. Where am I at? There I am. Okay, so we've almost done our first piece. It's a bit of an arduous task. However, now we can take all our pattern weights off and we can just double check. Yes, I haven't missed any. Oh, I missed that bottom line. So, because I've drawn it on, just going to line it back up with all the correct lines. Put that back on there. Here we are. Does it line up along the bottom? It's always best to make sure you've got it right the first time, I think. Anyway, there you go. There we are. Show it ever so slightly. There we go. So now I can draw across the bottom. Now the reason I do this in biro is because I can now take this off my piece, and that's it. I don't need that anymore. But I can still see my lines, and this is essential. I can now just shift my whole fabric upwards, and as long as the piece I'm drawing on is flat, I can get my pants and I can push them right to the same line as the bottom of them overtall legs. And this means I can really, really squeeze it on. And I'm actually going to use the same cut line. So the cut line for the bottom of these overtalls will be the cut line for the top of my harem pants. So, I mean, it's not essential on this piece because we only have the tiniest amount left at the bottom. But who knows, maybe we'll be able to squeeze a small hairband out of that scrap. Or my kids will tie it up and make a bracelet out of it. Who knows. Just going to draw across that bottom line. So this just really helps position the pattern. You have to be careful, obviously, when you're using directional prints. You can't just decide that you're going to turn a piece upside down because it'll look silly. So we're just going to draw all the way around it and make sure it shows on our fabric and that we haven't missed any of our lines as we're going round. And we go right back up to the bottom of that overtall leg. There we go. So this is now pushed as far up as we can possibly get it. It's not going to get any closer. And we're going to use the same cut lines. We're going to need that piece again in a minute. But we're going to do the same thing with the front of our overtalls. So we've got 2 of our pieces. We're going to need a 3rd. Get it nice and straight. Pull it right up until it meets the white bit. There we go. And then we are going to ensure our cut line meets the line that we've already drawn. And because we've got some of our pattern weights back, we can add those in. Now there is a little technique that with the bottom piece here under the pants you can actually make a little hat once you cut them out, which is rather sweet. So that gives you an extra item of clothing. And we're going to go from that edge exactly on, and we're going to go up and draw our front piece. And then we are literally only got that tiny slither, which seems a bit of a waste, but in a minute we're going to add another garment there. And we're going to try and squeeze in a little pair of booties just to really finish off our outfit, using every single bit of available space that we can. So we're going to go all the way around there with a biro or pen. My blue biros are slightly better for this, but all pens go walkabout. Now if you can't quite fit a piece on and you've got a little bit of white selvage, I mean, as long as it's in your seam allowance, I wouldn't worry, because nobody's going to see it when it's being worn. As long as you can comfortably fit it in your seam allowance so that when you turn the garment the right way, you don't have that little flash of white on it, then there's no reason not to use it. And if you're overlocking, the rainbow threads pretty much cover it up anyway, so you don't really see it. I'm all for just getting as much as possible out of the fabric, rather than worrying about having a tiny bit of selvage in your seam allowance. Because no one wants to waste these little plants. Go around there. In between these overtalls, you can't make a hat. It's a bit skinny and oblong. However, we go across the bottom of here. There we are. We have done our overtalls. So we've got a back and a front. We don't need any lining because I'll do that in a contrast colour, get as much as possible from our lovely fabric. So we have finished with our overtalls. They can go to one side. and under here we fit our t-shirt. However, I'm thinking it might be better to put another set of pants under here, because they're quite wide, but we can really push them up here. We can pull them across. There we are. And this means we can use this inlet bit at the top of the overalls to put our t-shirt in. We can use this small piece here for some booties. We can get the other side of our hat from the bottom of here, and we'll save ourselves enough along the bottom of here for a neckband. So I think actually that's probably the better idea. And that's the thing with doing it like this, you can make it up as you go along. There you go. Now this is identical piece, so I've put it on upside down, but it's a mirror image, so it doesn't really matter. There we go. So I'm just going to check to see if anyone's got any questions while that one's there. Nope, no questions, just some hellos. Hello everyone. So I'm going to draw across the top of my harem pants here. And that gives us enough fabric for a little hat with a band in our contrasting fabric, whichever colour I choose to do. Use pretty much any on this one. So this is a cotton jersey, which is quite nice because it's lovely and soft for baby clothes. And because it is a wider fabric, it's not massively, but you can get that little bit more out of it. So I'm going to draw my... Oops, I haven't done that bottom line. So I'm just going to draw that on. I'm going to draw the bottom of this one on. You might not be able to see my lines on the camera. I'm not sure if it picks it up well enough. But I can see them well enough to cut them, which is the main thing. So again, I'm going to go across here, and I'm going to use the bottom of my leg, my overalls, just over here as my cut line. So I'm going to join it into the same cut line. And that means we no longer need this pattern piece. So I'm going to move it to one side so it's out of the way and I don't get confused later. We are done. Now we're going to need more fabric. Shunt it all over. Because I've drawn it on, I can see exactly how far I can shunt it before it falls off the edge of the table in my lines. Smooth these over. These were my spare pattern weights, just in case I didn't have enough. I think we're okay. So my longest piece is my pick and mix bodysuit. Just going to pull this a bit closer to myself so I don't have to lean over as much this time. So I'm going to do my next longest piece. Let's have a look. Okay. Do it up to there. Now I'm actually going to cut both sides as a snap neck. Because last time I cut this out, I did not get it right. And I ended up with a snap on the wrong side. So it's a non-snap neck, the one I've got. So you need to overlap when you turn them together. So I think you have to turn the whole thing up the other way. Now, I do have a little bit here. If I hide that, actually, instead of doing a t-shirt, if we pull this across and touch them overalls, we can get the bottom piece of our pick and mix in perfectly. So I'm actually going to do that instead. So this is the back piece. It's the next longest piece that we need to do. And then our pants come down here. If we look at the shape of our sleeve, if we touch that right in there, nice and straight, we're actually almost, again, back on a level. So we've wasted barely any fabric. So we're going to do it like that, and we're going to fit our sleeve in. I'm just going to draw around this. So all we've got left to do now is the front of the bodysuit, front and back of a t-shirt, and the and the sleeves. Couldn't remember what I was talking about then. So just going to go all the way around here and do the snap neck. And this is our back piece. I'm actually going to do, I haven't cut the neckline out. And what I did when I was doing it last time was I cut both of them as backs because I've got a higher neckline. And then once I'd worked it out, I just cut the tiny slither off of the neck. I'm just going to come all the way down this edge. And then I just need to tuck him out of the way. Because I have my other pieces. I didn't want to print it out too many times and waste paper. So I just stacked them. I'm going to come around the bottom. It's quite boring, I imagine, watching me draw around patterns. But hopefully this layout shows you how much you can really squeeze on a piece of fabric. I always try and leave enough when I'm making my kids' clothes for some pants, because you always need matching pants for an outfit. It's like an unwritten rule. There we go. Now if we compare, just move that up a bit. If we compared trying to squeeze in the lower piece of our, I really should have done these the same way, pick and mix in there, like this. We're not losing too much, but then if we compare putting our sleeve in there, if we touched it onto there, I don't think we actually have enough to do a second sleeve. Nope, we do not. So I'm going to put my second body piece in, because sleeves are smaller. Now, got to flip it over so that when you sew it together, right sides together, this snap piece is going to be on that snap piece, because I messed it up last time. That means we can actually move it slightly further up, making sure it's nice and straight. I think I've got mine a bit wonky there. Move up a bit more. How straight can we get it? There we go. And again, you can probably get a neckband out of that, or a waistband. Waistbands do take up more than you think they're going to do, so it's always good to leave a little bit for your waistbands. So again, make sure it touches. Waste no fabric. I'd say that touches. So we're going to draw from our pants up the side. Obviously this gets trickier when you've got larger clothing because they have less leeway. Baby clothing is great. But the same principles apply. I always try and start with my largest piece because I know that's going to take up the most amount of fabric and I'm just not going to be able to squeeze it on if I start using up fabric. So this is going to come around here, going to come off the top. Now I'm sure everyone probably doesn't want to sit and watch me cut these out. If you do, please put a yes in the comments. If you don't, put no, I'm okay. And I'll cut them out off camera and then I'll just show you all the pieces in a photograph. So just let me know whether you want to actually see me cut these and the results, or whether you have other stuff to do the evening and watch me cut bits of fabric out. Going to go around here. Now it's going to touch that and I'm going to go up from there. There we go, so I've already done that piece. There we go. I'm back in there. So I've got both sides of my bodysuit. I don't need that anymore. Move it to one side. Oh no, I need t-shirts. Hang on. Let's get our t-shirt lines out. There's quite a lot of lines going on over here. Didn't stick together very well, that piece. Right. Now, sleeve. It's the smallest piece. I'm not going to worry too much. But I am going to double check that I can fit my t-shirt in up here. There we go. And can I flip it and fit it there? If I touch the sides, yes I can. Lovely. Then I'm going to need 2 sleeves. So that one will fit in nicely up there, which leaves probably enough for me to put a sleeve underneath. Lovely, plenty of room. So I know that I can fit 2 t-shirts and 2 long sleeves. So before I get too excited, I like to just go back through and be like, right, have I actually got everything? T-shirt, front and back. Yes, we know they're fit there. That one's done. Pick and mix bodysuit. We've already done the front and the back there, and we know that our 2 sleeves are going to fit there and there. That piece is done. The harem pants. We know there's one there and one side next to it. That piece is done. The overalls. We know that they're in the top corner, there and there. So that piece is done. There we go. So I go to my pile of packing pieces here. I'm doing the lined overalls, so I don't need the snap crotch. I know that I will need a neckband, and we know there was some space down here. So let's have a look. It's not going to fit under that one, but it will fit under here. So we could get 1 neckband, possibly 2 neckbands if we cut really carefully there. So we know that's going to fit. We don't need any waistbands in this fabric because that's a contrasting fabric. These are for a completely different pattern. These ones are the leg cuffs for the long harems, which we are going to need, but again, contrasting fabric. So this brings me to our final pattern pieces. So we know that our sleeve is going to be roughly on that line. So this is ribbing, put that to one side. And this, we need 2 of these and 2 of these. Now these are a bit of an awkward shape because they're like horseshoe shaped. But if we fit that in there, imagining that line there, is that, we can fit 1 there. We could then fit another one underneath, another one underneath. Potentially we don't have enough for 3, but I'm going to really squeeze it in and see if I can get it in. And then these we can fit hopefully down there, and that will give us enough for some little booties. So let's take our neckband off and our sleeve off. If anyone thinks I've forgotten anything, please do shout now. Because I will be massively disappointed when I get to the end and realise, oh, I've got to cut a whole front. So let's line that up on there, because I really would like, I mean, she's such a beautiful little girl. So it would be lovely to do her some little booties. And make her a whole outfit. Hat included. Her mum might be on this, so she'll probably hear me ruining all the plans and surprises. Okay, so this is going to be my t-shirt. We're going to put it right against the bodysuit. Make sure it's against there. We don't need that piece. And that piece there. Hold them out of the way. Just going to check the comments to see if you all want to watch me cut. Yep. So I cut with scissors. Anyone who knows me knows I am extremely accident prone. So that's also why I draw it on. If I draw it on, I don't need a mat, and I can sit on the sofa, cut the pieces out, because it's a lot easier. Me and rotary cutters, I mean, they're just a bit dangerous. I'm not very good with them, and I'm liable to cut my own things off. So I don't use rotary cutters. I did give it a go. It's good for straight lines, and for when I'm sending a big pre-order, I can just cut along metre strips. But anything that involves a corner or a small pattern piece is a definite no. So let's just get around this piece, and we're almost done with fitting our fabric pieces on. Our pattern pieces on our fabric even. Just keep going around there. Get that neckline in. Up to the shoulder. See, I never used to draw around my pattern pieces either. I always used to just lay them on my fabric and try and get them as close as possible. And then I ordered a metre of fabric and decided to try and make 2 coats out of it, as you do, and realised that I was going to have to plan it a bit more efficiently than I normally do. So now I'm going to flip this piece so I can get my snap neck round the right way. I'm going to line it up exactly with this t-shirt because I know it's the same straight line. And I'm going to just put them weights there, see if there's any more questions. No, I will not go near the rotary cutter, don't worry. I have learnt that I am not safe with any sharp implements. It's not going to happen. So I'm just going to draw around this piece. And then I'll cut that in front of the TV while I'm watching something. It's always a good time to cut things. There we go. And we're going to go up this side. I know it's very dull watching me do this. I'm trying to draw as quickly as possible, but make it so that I can actually see it later, because I really don't want to do it all again. My back is killing me. Must be getting old. It's got nothing to do with the fact that I went to an exercise class and I'm completely unfit. And I thought it'd be a great idea to go just before running the tutorial. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. There we go. T-shirt is done. And that piece can go to one side. It's now complete. We just need our sleeves for our pick and mix, and we're going to try and fit 4 of these on, which are very awkward shapes. But if we can fit one there, you can almost fit another one there, and then if we're lucky we could get a sleeve underneath and then do another line of them next to it, and then we can still get the soles down here. We also had we had a gap there which we can use. I mean, will it fit? Yeah, look at that, beautiful. We can get a sole in there if we need to. So I think that's how I'm going to do it, because I can tuck the top of this horseshoe shape right in there, line the 2 bottoms up with the straight edge of my t-shirt. And there we are. These are the Mentor slip-on booties, this pattern, which I adore. They're really cute. I also have the pattern for the wrap ones. They're really good for when you don't want their booties to fall off. So if you haven't heard of Mentor patterns before, they do lots of like accessory ones. They do gloves and neck warmers. They do neck hoodie, I can't remember what they're called, snuggle hoods or something, which I made my kids for Christmas a couple of years back. a dinosaur one and a unicorn one, and then the oldest was too cool, so he just had a neck warmer. He didn't want an animal one. There we go. Again, let's really squeeze this up. That was not straight at all. Let's try and get it straight. So, oh, hang on, that's going to cut off that piece there. What's going to cut off that? So we have to move it across slightly. Just double check. We can still get our sleeve in. We can cut this little triangle off. It's totally not needed. Just going to bend it out of the way. It's only a notch marker. Get rid of that. Oh, look at that. Perfect. So it's always good to double check you've cut the right amount of things as well, because I'm very guilty for doing that. I think I've done it all and then realise, actually, I misread the instructions and I need 2 of the main pieces. 2 lining. And I'm going to try and keep the bits between the harem pant legs so that I can make a little hat to go with everything. So that means for a metre of fabric, we are going to get 1 pair of booties, not including the cuffs, 1 pair of harem pants, again, not including the cuffs, 1 long-sleeved bodysuit. We are going to get a short-sleeved t-shirt, not including 1 set of sleeves. We're going to get a pair of fully lined overalls with the lining being, again, a contrasting fabric. And we are going to get all our neckbands as required. So let's just get this 3rd booty in, 3rd booty part. Pay attention to how your grain lines and your stretch should be as well when doing this, because there's nothing worse than cutting it out, realising you've cut it on the wrong line, and it's never ever going to go over their heads in a million years. And you either need to get a child with a smaller head and trade yours in, or make it all over again. I mean, I'm all for the trading in a child for a smaller headed child. It's kind of frowned upon. So I think just making it the right size to start with helps. Right. Here we are. This is going to be so cute. This is such a lovely design. It's actually an exclusive design, which makes me happy because it's such a cute design. And they just all got smiley faces. I don't know what it is about smiley plants, but my plants never look like this. They always look really sad in the corner. So it's nice to see some cartoon ones with smiley faces. There we go. And then we're almost at the end of the tutorial. So it's basically draw around everything, squeeze it on, shift it round, and make sure everything touches. There's no need to leave any gaps. Use the selvage if needed. Reposition as you go if you think it might look a bit better, or if you think you can fit more in. I mean, I'm thinking I might even be able to fit one more thing on here if I really try, but I'm not going to do it now. I'm just going to move that there. Long sleeves. See how tight that is? I literally have the smallest amount left along the bottom. There we go. So again, touching that line, we have the skinniest amount, but we only need to get 2 of these long sleeves. So that's okay. We just double check for questions. No, I never remember to water my plants. They always die. They are very sorry looking, my plants in my house. Join that up with the pick and mix. There we go. I think that bit's the pick and mix anyway. Around the top of here. This one. So my desire is to get as much out of fabric as possible. came from the fact that I always overestimate what I'm doing. And I always think I can do more than I probably can out of a single piece. So I've had to learn how to actually do it very economically, because I always think, oh, I can do that out of a metre, and then I try. And it turns out the reason the pattern said 1.5 metres is because you need 1.5 metres of fabric. So this one really going to touch there, and it is going into the white slightly at the bottom there, but it's going to be hemmed anyway. No one's going to see it. So we're just going to go there. It's not quite on the straight line, but I mean, we're going for quantity here. It's very close. Go up here. I really hope you guys can hear me and I'm not just muttering away to myself. I have a tendency to mutter to myself. I think it's from being at home all the time, because I work from home. I just talk away to myself. Also, gets more sane answers than talking to the kids. I normally just get given facts from the kids. I like their facts. Oh, look, if I just draw on that white line, we're okay. There we are. Sleeve, done. These pieces, done. So, I mean, I could carry on and draw around all these soles, but I'm not really sure anyone wants to watch, because it's a bit long-winded now. But we can fit a sole up here, because we, oh no, that's actually in a piece. Come on, Trudy, concentrate. Go between this piece here, so that'll get us a sole there. That's one of our soles. We've got to fit 4 of these on, and there is some space underneath the bodice of this pick and mix down here, but there's not enough between that. There is enough that side though, so that gives us 2. Now, because this is the smallest, no, it's not the best, the smaller size one, it doesn't need mirroring. It's already the same on both. So do we have any other extra pieces here? There was a bit up here between our overtools where the sleeves go, so we can actually fit another one in there. Wonder if we did that really nicely, we can actually get another one between the 2. So that's going to give us our 4 soles. We've got one there, one there. We can have one over here in this gap, and we can fit one down here. Well, actually it was on the other side, just down here, which means we're actually left with this strip all the way down here, and then it bumps out slightly there, and there's another bit there. So we could potentially get something small in there. I'm not going to go around all the soles now, because I think the tutorial's gone on long enough, and I think everyone's kind of got the gist of things. So my main points are: start with the biggest thing. Use unfolded pattern pieces so that you don't have to continuously fold and unfold the fabric. And just draw everything on. Really squeeze it up, make sure everything's touching, because when you then cut the pattern piece out, you can get right in there. Just when you're cutting, be careful you don't cut into the one next to it. Always make sure you're going up the long piece, and then you can come off here. And then that's it. So that's a whole little capsule wardrobe for 6 to 9 months, and we've got that out of 1 piece of fabric, and then we're just going to use some coordinate fabric to do linings and cuffs. So I'm just going to check to see if there's any questions at the end here. Oh, hang on. Just covered up that question. If you're not making several items at once, then just yeah, I mean, I'd say just make sure you're just cutting everything as close as possible, and you're using unfolded pattern pieces. It just makes it easier to visualize where everything's going to go. If you've put a piece away and you've come back to it, I always go through the fabric that I've got and think, right, what is the smallest piece of fabric that I can possibly fit this piece on? So I'll look for an offcut that just about squeezes it on, and then I'll draw around it, because I don't need to worry about it shifting when I'm cutting it if I've drawn around it. So if I go and get a scrap, I'm gonna go for the smallest piece I can possibly find that will fit my pattern piece on. It's easier if you have non-directional prints, because you can turn things upside down and then you can really squeeze things in. The older children's clothing, it is harder because they take up much more room. So I'd probably get, you know, for my 7-year-old, I mean, he got a whole t-shirt out of his metre, and he's probably still got enough left. He wants to make his sister a pair of leggings. She'll probably be about size 5 with the slim fit, because she likes them tight, so she'll probably go for them. And he can probably fit some pants on there as well, I should think. Maybe if he colour blocks, I can get him to put some shorts on there, but I shall see. I'll just get him to draw everything out, see where it fits. Always try and make sure that your pattern pieces make as straight a line as possible when you're finishing, if you know you're going to use it later. So, for example, this over-it-alls finish here, and the harems finish here. So if I was cutting that out, it's as close as possible to being a straight line when I finish. And this really helps when you're trying to use the fabric again and you try and line another piece up. Don't just cut straight up there to use that piece of fabric up. Make sure you cut to there, cross there, up there, you know, make sure you cut every bit. Don't be tempted just to go, oh, I'll cut up there and then I'll trim all the edges off, because then you're wasting something that you could potentially shift across by, you know, that's half a pick and mix that's fitted up there. So that's how I'd go about it, but I don't know if that helps. Hopefully it does. Yes, so unfolded pattern pieces are amazing. I understand that if you use a projector, sometimes they don't come with unfolded pattern pieces, but there are programs out there you can use to unfold them. Personally, I don't have a projector, so it's paper pattern pieces all the way, and all I do is print out one copy of them and then just trace the outline on some plain A4 paper, because it actually uses less A4 paper than printing out a second copy of the pattern pieces, because again, you can take the offcut from your, I'm really stingy, take the offcut from your printed out paper, move it around, stick it back on the bottom and draw the rest of the pattern piece in, which is what I was doing this afternoon when preparing for the tutorial, because I'd lost some of my pattern pieces from last time I did this. Yeah, and colour blocking, as Katie suggests there, colour blocking the harems works well. You can do, also, you know, if you can only fit half a harem on, why not include your seam allowances and then do a rectangle in the middle and make little knee patches, or, you know, little elbow patches on a top, or do the top half of a top one colour, put a band in and then put the bottom half on. There's always, you know, a way that you can squeeze a little bit more out of it. With this, I might be able to, for example, just thinking with these bits up here, I don't know if it's possible because my pattern piece is over here somewhere. This has a short sleeve version, which is quite wide, but you know, it really does take up less room if you shorten it down. I could fold that up and see if I can fit these pieces in. No, that's a definite no there. It's nowhere near wide enough. So yeah, that isn't going to work. But you can do things like that. You can pull things in right from the edge here. You can just stick them out a little bit in selvage, things like that. Is there anything else? Oh yes, Inkscape. I've never used Inkscape, but it does get recommended a lot in the project groups, so that's a good tip there. I tend to use Adobe. There you go, so cut them at the shorts line, do a band of a different colour. If you are doing that, make sure you remember to add seam allowance to your bands, otherwise you'll end up with slightly too short harems. It's not a massive deal for babies unless they've got really long legs. But yeah, you want to make sure you're not accidentally cutting, you know, this, you know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch off because you've forgotten your seam allowance, because that will shorten them. And then they might be capri length rather than full length. There you are. Okay, so I think I've waffled enough now. I'm going to go cut these pieces out because I'm not sure anyone wants to watch me. I'm just going to draw my final soles on, and then once I've cut them out, I will take a picture for you all, and then once I've sewn them up, I'll take a picture for you all to see. And if anyone's got any votes on what colour they think the coordinate fabric should be, please do let me know, and I will get sewing them. Okay, well thank you very much, and I will hopefully see you all soon on another tutorial. Thank you. Bye.